And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries. As we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family, your business can benefit from current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. Before we get into our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guest. Lynda Eisenmann is in the house. Preferred Home Brokers, welcome.
Thank you, Ron. Always good to be with you. Thank you.
Glad to have you with us. And let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you, and you can reach out to me directly, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are no operators standing by. I am it. While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan or plan to save you money, I personally work with you, even if you don't have any needs today. Save this number in your phone for future reference, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Yeah, I have a feeling, as we celebrate every day on Ron Siegel Radio, and I have a feeling that the celebration folks, well, they must have gone on COVID hiatus or something, because yesterday we had nothing exciting to celebrate. We celebrate, but there was nothing really exciting. Blueberry Popsicle Day, really? Today, National Welsh Rarebit Day. I don't even know what the heck that one is. National Bowling League Day. I don't know about that one either. I think we might have to skip to tomorrow when it's National Chianti Day. That one we can deal with that one.
Works for me.
And National Macadamia Nut Day.
Okay.
That one will work. And I don't know if anyone that would fit this bill, because tomorrow's also National Lazy Moms Day. I don't know how you can be a mom and be lazy. I think that's just, I tried staying home and taking over some of the chores that my wife handled for many years. The only thing I could say at the end of the day was, when can I go back to work? That was challenging. I was not excited about staying home. Holy cow. Speaking of not excited, let's take a look at the markets today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down almost 600 points, 592. Yeah, S&P 500 down 101. NASDAQ is down 513 points. Oil down 56 cents per barrel. U.S. 10-year Treasury is down just a little bit. We're at 0.63 on the yield of the 10-year Treasury. What's going on? How is that affecting the markets? Why are the markets doing what they're doing? What is the occasion here? Being down almost 600 points. We don't usually see that. We haven't seen that in a long time. And I had somebody already text me this morning. And I appreciate the text messages, the emails that we get. And they said, Ron, with the market going down, what effect does that have on interest rates? And generally, it's a very, very simple answer. When the market goes down, people are selling. That's generally the cause of the market going down. There's more people selling than people buying. Market goes down. What do people do with the money? Well, they put it into something a little bit safer. That's generally the bond market. So the bond market, the bonds go up, interest rates go down. Well, we are seeing the bonds go up just a little bit this morning, not as much as the markets are going down. But here's the issue. So many times recently, whenever the stock market goes down, the vast majority of individuals have seen that as a buying opportunity. So even though the market's going down, people are saying, well, it's not going to stay down, so I'm going to go in there and buy. So they're not really putting their money into the bonds, which would make the bonds go up, yield go down, or interest rates go down. So that's really what's going on right now. So the bottom line on that one, as is most of the time, the answer to the question is, the market going down, is it good for the stock market or for the bond market or for interest rates, or bad? The answer is, it depends. So we're down almost 600 points right now, and we haven't seen the benefits, or that kind of benefit. It also has to do with the day of the month. right? So right now, we're getting close to a holiday weekend. Investors don't really like having their money at risk over a long weekend. There's a lot of things that can go on over a long holiday weekend. So they like to put their money on the sidelines. That would bring the stock market down, and it would not have any effect on the bond market because they're not going to go short term into bonds. So the money just goes to the sidelines. That could be what we're seeing right now as well. So those that are wondering about that, want to know what's going on, that's the answer to the question. The other part of it is we got a head fake today. Yes, indeed. We did get a head fake because we got the unemployment numbers, and the media is really head faking because so many of them just look at headlines and they don't understand the underlying issues. So when you listen to Ron Siegel Radio, we give you those underlying issues. The initial job claims for last week was released, showing 881,000 individuals filed for unemployment benefits for the first time. Big number, but it was better than what was expected. The issue is how many people stopped filing for traditional unemployment and went on the pandemic unemployment assistance claims. Well, we added about 1 million people there. So yes, we did have people coming off of the continuing claims. That dropped. The continuing unemployment claims dropped. That improved by 1.2 million people to 13.3. That's what the media sees. Right? They say the continuing claims dropped by 1.2 million, and we had 900,000 go on to the unemployment. So it must be good. Well, where did the people that dropped off unemployment go to? They went to the pandemic unemployment because either their unemployment ran out or they saw it as a need to go over and get more money from that pandemic unemployment benefit. All of those are areas, those are the underlying numbers that many people do not talk about. Why? Because they don't understand them. You gotta look deep into these numbers. I share this, not that I am just a simple guy, but even as a simple individual, having done this for over 25, 30 years, you start looking and saying, where are the real numbers? Where are the skeletons buried? So that's kind of where some of those skeletons are buried. And we're going to get that Bureau of Labor Statistics number tomorrow. That's the big job number that comes out the first Friday of every month. And, they adjust the numbers because they don't always get those right immediately. I mean, that's pretty quick when you think about it. They're doing it based on modeling. And when you think about the month ended on Monday and they're going to have a number that's this significant on Friday of the same week, pretty tough to do. So we're going to watch that for you. We'll see what the revisions look like for you. We'll be chiming in on our socials, being that I'm going to probably take the day off tomorrow. Not probably, I will be. So that's I'll still be checking in and monitoring the things that are going on. Hey, what else is going on in the world today? We found some interesting news. And I don't know how many people are going to see this the way I do. Arguably, the most influential Democrat in Washington politics claims to have been duped, set up by a hairdresser. Now, I'm not saying whether this hairdresser is the most intelligent person in the world, not the most intelligent person in the world. She probably doesn't get the same level of briefings as Nancy Pelosi. But think about this. She went to the hairdresser in San Francisco, where the salons are closed, and there's video of her getting her hair washed and cut and whatever they do with all that stuff. And she comes out and said, and no mask. Yeah, no mask. We did mention that part too. After she tells the president that when he did his speech at the White House, they were vandalizing the White House. That was her term, vandalizing the White House. But then she says, well, she was set up by the nail salon owner. Really? How could that possibly be? Do you think the nail salon owner gets the same level of briefings that Nancy Pelosi does? I know even from local politics, politicians think the rules apply to you and me, not to them, right? So just watch that. That's fascinated me when she said that it was the hair salon's fault and they owed her an apology. Now, from my knowledge of local politics, here's what really happened. Somebody on her staff called and said, Mrs. Pelosi wants to get her hair cut. She wants to do it tomorrow. Please make it happen or else. Just fascinating how that goes. That's just a little bit of information for you. Hey, good morning, Pat. Glad to see you with us. And I will tell Lynda that you're tuned into us this morning. Hey, you're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. When we come back, getting your offer accepted in this blazing market, how buyer demand is far above last year's pace. All that and more. You can reach me anytime. Our offer number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Connect with us, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio, on Twitter @Ron Siegel. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few. We're clear.
Is that Pat Beeling?
Yeah.
Do you hear from him very often?
Yeah, he pipes in now and then. He and I had lunch right before all this craziness started.
He's an interesting guy.
Yeah, it seems like it. He's got some good information.
Yeah, he's full of information. He worked as an agent for a short while
Oh, really?
for Martha Jansen at Century 21 at Cheevers
Okay.
back in when Martha was big.
Here we go. Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by our friends at Gold Star Mortgage. When you're ready for that next mortgage, first mortgage, any mortgage, Gold Star. They've got the programs and the products. You've got the phone. Make the call, 800-306-1990. Again, that's 800-306-1990. Let's take a look at what the markets are doing. We like to do that for you every morning as part of the mortgage minute. The Dow Jones Industrial Average now down 541 points. NASDAQ down 495 points. That's going to be fascinating to watch those two, since they've added some tech stocks into the Dow Jones Industrial Average. They're going to mirror each other a little bit closer. The S&P 500 down 101 points. Down 101. We haven't said that in a long time. Yeah, a little painful on that. 10-year Treasury, yeah, the yield down at 0.628. Mortgage-backed securities, that bond is up, so interest rates down a little bit. We told you a little bit of the numbers and why that was happening. I do like to give you every week at this time Freddie Mac's mortgage market survey, their mortgage market survey. And yes, I know those of you that are the compliance specialists and the watchdogs, I do not need to give you an APR when I'm giving you a Freddie Mac mortgage market survey report, because that's Freddie Mac. They're the one. It's a public number. It's not an individualized number. So for today, September 3, 2.93 is the 30-year rate. Yes, you have to pay 0.8 of a point to get that rate. Last year, this week, 3.49. So down about a half a point. You had to pay a half a point to get it last week. This week, you're paying 0.8 of a point to get it. We were up about 2/10, 2/100. I'm sorry, from last week, and then we're, like I say, down about a half from last year. Why is it all happening? Well, we've told you about what's going on in the stock market. Dow Jones, S&P 500, CDC last night. Companies should prepare to distribute the COVID-19 vaccine as soon as late October. They said there would likely be a limited supply initially, with more in November and December. Optimistic news. Should companies be able to release a successful vaccine in time? Maybe the CDC has news not available to the public. I would assume they probably do. 18 months ago, the talk was margin compression on loans. In quarter two, it's reported that mortgage companies made $4,500 per loan versus $1,600 in the first quarter. So we're watching that number. I told you a little bit about the initial jobless claims in the last segment. It'll be fascinating to see. I'm going to go back because I didn't mention this. Are you one of the people that are going to be first in line to get a vaccine? Just fascinating that, not you, me neither.
Not me.
I'm with you, Lynda. I don't, one of the things, I listened to the CEO of Merck, and he said that in the last 25 years, there's been 7 successful vaccines. And Merck themselves has had 4 of those 7 successful vaccines. And one of the reasons they talk about is it just takes a long time to find out what are the side effects. Right? They're rushing this thing through so quickly, hydroxychloroquine. And, you come up with these issues. And, to me, like I said, I would much rather, if you look at the results in the study that we've talked about from the research PhD and MD at Yale, talking about all the surveys that he's seen with hydroxychloroquine, I'd rather take my chance with a 50-year-old drug than a 5-minute-old vaccine. Just throw that out there. That's the Mortgage Minute, brought to you by our friends at Gold Star Mortgage.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
They had 7 successful trials
There were 7 successful vaccines.
out of how many trials?
They didn't say that.
Who knows?
Right. I'm sure a lot of, because
Who knows?
25 years, I'm sure they've been trying to, there's a zillion. We know about the vaccine for HIV/AIDS, right? There isn't one. We know about the vaccine for the swine flu from 10 years ago. There isn't one. Right? I mean, they've tried all these things.
Yeah.
Just because we've thrown, how many billions and billions and billions of dollars at this one, I don't know that money is the answer. And I know you can't buy time with money.
No, but we have to try.
Well, without a doubt.
Yeah.
No, I'm all for trying. I'm just saying that I know who the guinea pigs are going to be when this vaccine comes out. Right? They're going to force the kids to take the vaccine, or else they're not going to let them go to school. I wouldn't let my kids go. I'd find another way, initially. And they're going to try and get the seniors to do it. Right? I mean,
I'll be right there.
No, but that's who they consistently try to get on these initial vaccines, because they're the ones that the government thinks they have the most control over. And I'm just sorry to see that. I think that's the way it's going to go. And I know that it's probably not the popular answer, but I've never been a populist anyway.
I have to agree with you when it comes to that, though.
Yeah, I mean it's worrisome.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about real estate and offers. And, Lynda, I love it when you come in and chat with us because I always learn something and we can have a great conversation. And you've been through not pandemics, but times when it's challenging to get offers accepted. Right? I mean, what was it, 2011, 2012, when it was crazy trying to get off after we had all the properties that we'd get all the distress sales, foreclosures, people, their properties were out there, and then we start turning around. Interest rates were low, and you get 100 offers for every property. And how do you get them accepted? Is there a process, or is it just luck?
Well, hopefully there's a lot of thought that's going to go into it, because there are things that will, I think, favor your offer over someone else's, and not always about price. Price obviously is essential, but when it comes down to it, how does the seller make a decision when you've got 3 or 4 or half a dozen offers that are at the same price?
Makes sense to me. And I will share my personal, maybe it's not my personal, because I'm sure somebody else came up with it. I didn't. Luck, labor under correct knowledge, right? The harder you work, the luckier you get. So what are some of the things that you would recommend someone do if they find that dream home and they want it, but how do you deal with all these different people? A lot of agents now, I'm noticing more and more, are pricing properties aggressively to entice the multiple offers.
Well, I think maybe that was the thought even a few months ago, but when you say price it aggressively, if you price it at the market or where you think it should sell, or are you looking for more people to submit offers? There's different ways, I guess, to look at it.
Yeah, from what I've been hearing is a lot of people are going either at market or just a little below.
I personally, I don't think you need to go anywhere near below at this point in the market that we're in right now. And there are so many ways other than just a price, in my opinion, just price, that the seller's going to look at. And if you have a really good listing agent that is able to decipher the offers and determine the value and the merits of each offer, one maybe over another, and it's not always about price.
So what are some of the things that we're looking at that the listing agent's going to be looking at? Or I would submit that even sometimes the selling agent, the buyer's representative, can kind of connect the dots for a poor listing agent if they need to.
Well, personally, I tend to think that it's always the value of communicating directly with that listing agent before you even write an offer.
Oh, really? Okay.
And, absolutely. Find out really what the seller's looking for. Sometimes it's not always the price. Sometimes it's the strength of the offer itself. And what I mean by strength of the offer depends upon the quality of the buyer, because you can have buyers in different levels of buyer strength. And that can depend upon qualifications, down payment, contingencies, a lot of different things that are into that offer itself. California has one of the largest real estate contracts, as far as I'm concerned, probably in the United States.
That's a surprise.
And probably a surprise too. But there is so much to consider, and I think it's a value for a buyer, a home buyer, to ask their agent for at least a copy of the offer to review in advance. And if nothing else, they're not going to completely understand most of the paragraphs or issues in the contract itself, but have an overall understanding of what's required when it comes to making an offer. Normally when a buyer submits an offer today on a property, by the time they have met with their agent, it's probably a 2.5-hour process just going over the initial offer and the addendums that accompany an offer now. Some of those are disclosures, some of those are just addendums. And normally a buyer is going to be signing around 32 to 34 pages with the initial offer.
Wow.
And by the way, those are the California Association of Realtor forms. That does not include separate forms that come from franchises and other specific companies.
And does that include all the current COVID forms and all of that as well?
COVID's been done in advance of that.
Before that.
You sign that, you basically go over the COVID forms before you even set foot in a property.
So if you're somebody like me, and I'm the first to admit I can't read, right? So if I had to read 37 pages worth of documents, it would probably take me about a month and a half. Right? I'm just a real horrible reader. So to me, if I could get a copy of that document, early on, and kind of familiarize myself. Some of it, is going to be the legalese I may not understand ever, but the data that's in there, there's going to be a lot of information that we just want to understand, and that way when you fill in the blanks, it's a lot easier. And I'm going to submit that in many instances, and I use it myself, DocuSign is a very common product now. If I tried to sign a contract, which I can do on my phone, the problem is I can't see it.
I'm probably not alone in my thinking, but most people who sign documents via DocuSign just want to know, or they just say, where do I sign?
Right.
Without reading it, especially when it comes to something like a purchase agreement, especially.
Yeah, and you need to have that information. You're spending, in Southern California, probably a minimum of $200,000, and the number could have more commas than that, right? So we're going to talk more with Lynda Eisenmann when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. We're going to also chat a little bit about home buyer demand, far above last year's pace. And we've got a featured home brought to you by mysocallender.com, mysocallender.com. All that and more, you can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Connect with us, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio, on Twitter @Ron Siegel. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned, we'll be back in just a few. We're clear. Yeah, I said I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm a big believer that there's going to be lawsuits at some point over DocuSign. Is that that? I send them out, and I know that they come back too quick for somebody to read them.
They do. People just say, where do I sign?
Mhm.
And the purchase agreement is really it's the foundation of your entire contract. And that's why that one is so important.
Yeah.
So, when I sit down with the seller and I'm on a listing presentation, haven't taken a listing yet, maybe I'm out with 1 or 2 or 3 other agents, who knows. I take a yellow highlighter and I go through the purchase agreement, and I take 2 highlighters. One, and this is what I tell them, this is what most agents look at, and you as a home seller would be looking at also, is the price. How much is it? How much, maybe how much down payment, and what's the length of the escrow? In other words, how much am I getting and how soon am I going to get it? And then I take my highlighter and I go over all of the other things in the contract that I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is how much is the earnest money deposit. I'm looking at how many days does the buyer have to approve or disapprove things. What are they asking the seller to pay for, if anything, above and beyond a home warranty, for example. So I'm looking at all the other things in the contract, not just the price and the length of the escrow.
I've always told people that when I've talked to them is that the most important things that I see is exactly what you're saying: price, escrow, and contingencies. Those 3 are the things that I hear most common. And I'm obviously not talking to too many sellers, but when I talk to buyers, that if you can find that out in advance, you can be 1 step up, because it might be that the contingencies are their hot button. Right? They don't want to need to stay there 30 days or 45 days. If you put that in your contract, the guy that didn't know it is.
That's why I think it's always good for a selling agent to try and reach out to a listing agent ahead of time. What's your seller looking for? And
Yeah.
it's not just price.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio, or anytime at 800-306-1990, 1990, the real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by the area trusted real estate professionals of Ron Siegel Radio. Text SLT Home Digest to 79564, SLT Home Digest 79564. Tells you exactly what the county recorder knows about your property and what the market believes about your property. SLT Home Digest, it's a monthly email you get, and it is absolutely free from your friends at Ron Siegel Radio. Homebuyer demand is far above last year's pace. Homebuyer has been on the rise over the past few months, with record-breaking sales powering through the market in June and July. Buyers are actively purchasing homes, and the momentum is continuing into the fall. It is, however, becoming harder for buyers to find homes to purchase. If you've been thinking about selling your house, the coming weeks might be just the timing you've been waiting for. According to the pending home sales report from the National Association of Realtors, quote, pending home sales in July achieved another month of positive contract activity, marking 3 consecutive months of growth. The pending home sales index, a forward-looking indicator of home sales based on contract signings, rose 5.9% to 122.1 in July. Year-over-year contract signings rose 15.5%. An index of 100 is equal to the level of contract activity in 2001, unquote. This means that for the past several months, buyers have signed an increasing number of contracts to purchase homes, well above where the market was at this time last year. Lawrence Yoon, chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, notes, quote, we are witnessing a true V-shaped sales recovery as home buyers continue their strong return to the housing market. Home sellers are seeing their homes go under contract in record time, with 9 new contracts for every 10 new listings. So I'm sharing a graph for those of you watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv, or if you're on the AM 1490 ABC News and Talk video feed, you can see the graph that we're showing, the deep blue V marks, the slowdown from this spring that turned into an exponential jump in sales that followed through the summer, skyrocketing above the past years. So what's this mean for sellers? If you're thinking about putting your house on the market in the spring but decided to wait due to the health crisis, it may be time to make your move. Buyers are in the market right now. With so few homes available to purchase, homeowners today are experiencing more bidding wars, creating an optimal time to sell. So is the trend going to continue? That's the big question. As CNBC notes, there are no signs of slowing buyer demand this fall. Quote, the usual summer slowdown in the housing market is not happening this year. Buyers continue to show strong demand, spurred by the new stay-at-home world of the coronavirus and by record low mortgage rates. Danielle Hale, chief economist at Realtor.com, concurred. In a typical year in the housing market, buyer interest begins to wane before seller interest, causing the usual seasonal slowdown as we move into the fall. Due to delayed spring season and low mortgage rates, we could see buyer interest extend longer than usual into the typical quieter fall. Whether this means more home sales will depend on whether sellers participate or decide to stay on the sidelines. As Hale mentioned, homeowners who are willing to sell their houses right now will play a big role in whether the trend continues. The market needs more homes to satisfy ongoing buyer demand. Maybe it's time to leverage your equity and move up while eager home shoppers are ready to purchase a house just like yours. Bottom line, if your current home doesn't meet your family's changing needs, hey, give us a call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with a great realtor anywhere in the sound of my voice. Again, 800-306-1990. That's the real-time real estate segment brought to you by the area trusted real estate professionals of Ron Siegel Radio. Text SLT Home Digest to 79564. Continuing our conversation, Lynda Eisenmann is with us this morning. Learning, and remember that the issue, when I talk about these reports, I just want to share with you, remind you, the reports that we get on a regular basis are national data. That doesn't necessarily translate into local data. And you need a great real estate professional like Lynda who can give us the local, what's happening on the street locally. You know, I do a little radio show here, lead a lending team. So we understand numbers, right? But we're not out on the street seeing and hearing What are the sellers saying? What are the buyers finding? One of the things, and I'll ask you about it, Lynda, is that the issue that comes up a lot, and I've seen this over the last 3 months with a lot of the people that we've been with our private clients helping them with financing, is some of them are starting to go back to the 2010, 11 time where they're getting frustrated because they make so many offers that they're getting tired of writing offers and getting rejected. Are you finding that?
I haven't found it yet, because we've been mostly on the listing side. Actually,
Okay,
my transactions this year have all been listings, so I
Okay.
haven't worked with that many buyers, but I'm sure it is happening out there. But all I can say is don't give up. Don't give up and do everything you can working with your agent to try and strengthen your offer as much as possible. And again, that's not always just about price. Our California contract has so many contingencies built into it, and those contingencies are primarily for the protection of home buyers. And it's a way for buyers to satisfy questions that they may have. And most of those are disclosure issues, things that the seller may or may not even know about the property. Above and beyond the loan contingency and an appraisal contingency, for example, one of the big contingencies is the inspection of the property. And there isn't any reason why a buyer could not be prepared in advance to know exactly who they're going to use for the inspector once they're ready to move forward at that point. And that's something that the buyer should be addressing with their agent, or the agent should be addressing with the buyer the other way
Right.
around in the very beginning, and say, look, well, one of the things that we're going to do once your offer is accepted is we're going to have your physical inspection. And you have the ability to choose your own inspector. And this is a site you might want to go to look at some sample reports. Or you may have sample reports from some of your favorite inspectors. But by the way, the choice of the inspector is always up to the buyer and not the buyer's agent.
that's a big issue
So,
right there,
It
right?
is.
Because
It-
you're paying for it, you should be, do your own due diligence.
And that's, to me, the physical inspection is one of the most important times for a home buyer. And also for a home buyer to be present with the inspector at the time the inspection is done. Now, not every home buyer wants to go to an inspection. Maybe both spouses don't, maybe one or the other. But as far as I'm concerned, if they're not there for the entire inspection, that's okay. If they're there for the recap and they have an idea of what's taken place during the inspection and what might be the major concerns for an inspector. And the major concerns are the ones that you're going to really want to address. There's going to be a lot of not insignificant, but there's going to be a lot of minor items on the inspection report.
Sure,
Because it's that inspector's job really to pick that home apart and find out issues that could be of concern. But the inspection, like I said, is just one of them. But one of the things that you might want to do as far as a home buyer is already know who your inspector is going to be and be able to review some inspections ahead of time. And if an agent can provide some of the disclosures that are going to be required, just so a buyer can review those in advance. And so a buyer can really have a good idea about what they're buying right the very first few days, and not necessarily wait till they get that inspection back.
sounds like some great information right there, because that is, if you're, and it kind of ties in. And I was chuckling to myself, Lynda, as you're chatting there, as you're educating us on that, because I think it was last week we had Joe Ingram was in, and we spent a lot of time talking about personality types. And I'm the personality type that I wouldn't even know what the heck the inspector's looking at, even if he was just putting a light bulb in a socket, right? So I don't understand what side of a screwdriver to use. So to me, I'm looking at it saying, okay, I need to know, when are we going to be at about the last half hour or hour so I can get the recap?
And that's okay too. Actually,
Right?
the recap is usually the most important part. And one of the things that as a home buyer you don't want to be a nuisance at an inspection. You don't want to get in the way of the inspector. You want the inspector to do his or her or their jobs while
Right.
you're there. But I think the recap is the most important part of the inspection process, quite frankly.
So that's an important part of it. We're also looking at the concept of, we want to make sure that if you're the S or C type, right, where you're really the individual that likes detail, right, then that's the person that you're talking about. You have the right to be there and just, be the shadow to the inspector.
You can as long as you're not in their way.
Right.
And that can be a concern for some inspectors. And by the way, not all inspectors are the same. I mean, ask your agent for sample reports. And I had one inspector say to me not long ago, he said, well, I really don't use a lot of photos in my reports. He said, I explain it, but I don't use a lot of photos like that. How hard is it to take a photo of something? And, what about the old adage, is a photo is worth 1,000 words?
Right.
I mean, I'm a visual person.
Me too.
I need to see it. If there's a problem, if there's an issue that is visible, I need to see it myself.
That's an inspector that would not be one that would be on the list that I would provide.
I agree.
Right, I mean, and I just call it out there because we don't work, you and I, neither of you or I work for any of the inspectors. We have our favorites. I recommend all the time, John and Melissa Hammond. They're here locally in the Orange County area. But you know something, if it's some of these other issues, I gotta have the pictures. It's everybody's got a camera with them nowadays, right? I mean, we can take a picture of somebody walking into a hair salon if we want to, and do anything. So when you're saying you're not doing that, it's basically telling to me, you know, I don't know who the inspector is, and I don't really care, but that's.
I don't know who it is today either.
Yeah.
That's been some time ago.
Right, but I would basically be saying that's somebody that sounds kind of lazy to me, right? And if they're going to be lazy on taking the photo, what else are they lazy about?
Well, to me, it would be easier to show it on a photo than to try and describe it in
Right.
detail without a photo.
Take a picture, circle, this is
Yeah.
what I'm looking at.
But again, ask your agent ahead of time. Do you have some sample reports? Do you have a couple of different, not just necessarily one or two, but if you have several different inspectors that you work with?
Now, there's a very, very large realtor conference going on right now. And one of the things that they're promoting, and you're gonna start seeing this because of the way this particular coach works, is a concierge program with realtors. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that and get your opinion of that when we come back as well, Lynda. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. We're going to have that featured home coming up when we come back, brought to you by mysocallender.com. Mysocallender.com. We'll have that featured listing. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Connect with us. Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio, on Twitter @Ron Siegel. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
I sat in on a session last week with Dr. Yoon from NAR and Leslie Appleton Young, who is our soon-to-be outgoing CAR economist, along with one other person from Canada, I think. Not one of my favorites, but nevertheless, it was just, I took as many notes as I could, but then I couldn't read all my notes afterwards. So I called CAR this week to see if it was recorded. And Leslie's personal assistant said, I don't think it was, because it didn't look like they did it from CAR from the way Leslie looked. I think she was back wherever she is, back east now, or Florida or whatever. But she just sent me the link yesterday, so I'm going to go back and listen to it again, because there were so many good things on that particular one, and it was good to hear Leslie from California. I'll send you the link. Okay. Leslie from California and Dr. Yoon from NAR. And talking about how COVID has changed the dynamics of the housing market in general, not just what we're going through with offers today, but the fact that people are looking at housing so differently today because of the people that are working at home. And he said originally only about 5% of the workforce work from their home. Right now it's 25%, and I believe it's growing even more than that. So the consensus was nowadays people don't have to worry about where they're going to live based on where they have to commute. They can live anywhere.
Yep. And that's going to be, I think that's actually, I bet he's probably understating just based on Monday's financial report from Zoom. Right? Zoom came out and they tripled their revenue from the prior quarter.
Just from last quarter.
Right. I mean, their stock went up like 140 points.
I mean, doesn't everybody say they wish they would have bought Zoom a year ago or 2 years ago?
Yeah. Well, heck, you would have bought it on Monday and you could have sold it Tuesday and make 120 points. But that's the same thing. That's the same situation. Is that there's so many people that are working from home. I know my future daughter-in-law, her company said they're not going to force anybody to go back until January, and they might not even do it then.
I believe that.
one of my sisters works for the city of Anaheim, and she's been working at home all this time. My sister works for Schools First Credit Union. She's
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The My Featured Home segment today being brought to you by MySoCalLender.com. One of my favorites, MySoCalLender.com. They've got some great data on there. You can find out about almost any property within the sound of my voice. MySoCalLender.com. This property brought to you by Paula Barrett, 641 South Dewberry Lane, Anaheim Hills, 92808. I think I knew where most of Anaheim Hills, Dewberry Lane. I'm not even familiar with that one. Beauty in the secluded Laurelwood community in Anaheim Hills, tucked inside a cul-de-sac corner unit, upper level. The home has multiple amenities. That's good to know. Open floor plan, cathedral ceiling, 2-car garage, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, living room, fireplace, slider to a cozy patio, sky-high ceilings, inside, side-by-side laundry in the hallway, tasteful decor. Look, a lot of good stuff for this property. Welcoming master, I don't know what to do with a welcoming master bedroom. Like, the only thing I say would probably get me in trouble, right? Vaulted ceilings, oversized closet with mirrored wardrobes, sliding closet doors, all of that for $508,000 in Anaheim Hills. So if you're looking for that starter home, I know that sounds crazy in certain parts of the country, but yes, in Anaheim Hills, that would be a starter home. 10% down, you're looking at about a $2,900 monthly mortgage payment, principal, interest, taxes, insurance. 20% down, you're looking at $2,558 a month, principal, interest, and that's all includes the HOA as well. Think about that, $2,558 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. What are you paying for rent? Just throw that out there. And I better, for the compliance people that may be listening, yes, that's a 3.27 APR and a 3.111 APR. And my NMLS is 217037. Great property, it looks like. And heck, I know some people that may even like that property, so I might tell them about it. Maybe I won't. But that is the featured home brought to you by MySoCalLender.com. MySoCalLender.com. If you need any information on properties, they've got it all for you. Get the financing in there. Continuing our conversation with Lynda Eisenmann this morning, we're talking about getting your offer accepted. And Lynda, I'm a little old school. I don't know about you. When you talked earlier about the concept of the buyer's agent calling and talking to the listing agent, or speaking to the listing agent, finding out what the buyers want. Are you talking about picking up a phone really and calling somebody?
Absolutely, reaching out.
Right.
You know, be a live voice, be a live person, connect ahead of time if you can, and find out from that. If you're representing the buyer, if I'm representing a buyer and the buyer's agent, I'm gonna try and reach that selling agent ahead of time and say, what's important to your seller and the offer they accept. And what's important might be whether or not they need a short escrow, they need a long escrow, maybe there's a rent back involved. You know, there's other extenuating circumstances other than just price. It's not always about only the price.
That fascinates me how so many people don't even think about that portion of it as to, you know, what is in any negotiation. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about a house, you're talking about a car, you're talking about a job, right? Because there's people that you know, I've known of folks that have got to a job and they've taken a lower salary for flexibility.
Yes. And it doesn't happen often, but there's a few times that I have had a seller actually accept an offer that was slightly less than the highest offer because they connected with that buyer.
So how do you connect though? How do you make that happen?
Well, there's several ways in which you can connect. If you have an opportunity to meet a home seller, and there's a lot of agents that will tell the sellers, don't even be present. And quite frankly, I don't want my sellers to be around either during the entire showing process. If I have sellers who are normally home, what I'm gonna ask them to do is step outside while the buyer is looking at the home and allow the agent to show the buyer and allow the buyer to look at a home on their own and at their own pace and without having somebody look like they're looking over their shoulder, because that's the last thing you want. However, there are times that on the way out,
if a buyer has any other questions, sometimes we might just ask the seller directly without asking any confidential information, because that, you don't want to breach that situation.
Sure.
Because it's somebody else's agent. You're hopefully only representing your buyer at that point. But there might be a question comes up about something in the yard or something like that. So there's a way that occasionally when buyers and sellers meet, they can either like or dislike them for different reasons. So that could be one way. Another way is, and I know agents have done this for a very long time, but you can write a buyer, we call them a buyer love letter, thinking of anything else. But it's something that the buyer usually or can write to the home seller and say, and tell them why they love the home, a little bit, maybe a little bit about their family if they do have a family. And I'll give you an example. I had a home in Graham. We had multiple offers on it. My buyers wrote a letter to the sellers, telling them about the home, why they like the home, and they included a picture of them around their own Christmas tree, the buyer's Christmas tree. And the buyer said to me, "Gee, do you think this picture is a little cheesy for the letter?" And I said, "Yeah, I do think it's a little cheesy, but let's go with it." Lo and behold, when their offer was accepted, when we met the seller's son, because the parents had passed away, when we met the seller's son at the property, he said to my buyers, "I really love that picture in your letter, because this is right where our family put our Christmas tree, and your letter reminded me of that." Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
What an unusual connection, but it worked in their case.
Yeah, and you know something, there's a lot of things that can be done, and this goes to my personal opinions, and I think you probably share this one with me, Lynda, is that when you have good counsel, you're gonna get some tricks of the trade that you may not hear otherwise, right? There are some buyers agents that'll say, you know, something I wanna put together, like you say, the love letter. Some will say, let's make a little video. I've had agents, and we do this all the time if we have the time to do it, not our time, but if we give enough free time, is for some of our private clients, we'll make a little video that the buyer's agent can include, talking about what we know about the family that's buying, because we've done due diligence and we know about their strength of their financing.
Excellent.
Right? So those are all things that it's just that little extra step that gives the sellers that level of comfort. We're buying something that we believe is going to be our castle, but for the most part, that already is somebody else's castle.
Absolutely.
Right, and you know, unless like in your case, maybe that son grew up in that property, right?
He did, and that's exactly
There's memories.
That's exactly what he was addressing with the buyers. That yes, this is exactly what we did when I was here when I was a little kid.
So you're getting into something that most people don't want to talk about, because it can be an unfair advantage. Is, you know, you've got the contract, and I know you're an expert in the contract. I know 3 or 4 lines in the contract, right? But the one thing that is a unfair advantage is if you can tap into emotion, right? Because if you can tap into that seller's emotion, they can get an emotional connection. You know, we were talking about this with Joe. We got to listen. Someone has to like you, to listen to you, to believe you, to buy.
I guess.
Right? And everything fits into those 4 somewhere. If they don't like you, they're not going to listen to you. And if they don't listen to you, they can't believe you. And if they don't believe you, they're not going to buy from you. Right? So if we can tap into that with some of these experience items.
Well, and there's so, you know, we have to realize that we're not dealing with just bricks and mortar.
Right.
We're not dealing with just numbers. This isn't necessarily just an investment property. This is a place where people are going to call home.
Right.
And they look at it entirely, most people look at it entirely differently. Most sellers and buyers both. Again, it's not always about the highest dollar.
I've talked to many sellers in my day, and I've said to them that you need to divorce yourself of the property, right? It's a cold, callous term, and that's the idea, because until they do that, are they going to really listen to you as the professional who says, you know something, we need to take away the family pictures, because we don't want the buyers to focus on family pictures. We want them to focus on how their family is going to feel in this house. Where's Johnny's room going to be? Where's Sally's room going to be?
That's
right?
true. That's true. And that's something that we've done for a long time. And I think that really first entered residential resale probably when we began to stage most properties or more properties. We want the buyers to be able to see themselves in that home and not necessarily the people that are hanging on the hallway wall.
Right. Great information. If you want more information about how to win that offer, give us a call, 800-306-1990. A lot of experience. I don't say tricks to the trade, there's experience to the trade. And that's why you want to have a great real estate professional representing you. I recommend Lynda very highly because she knows what she's doing. She's seen it. There's every market. There's not a whole lot of market. We have found one that you haven't seen before. Now you can put pandemic on your.
Well, pandemic is a good one. Although a lot of the things we're doing as a result of pandemic are some things that are similar to what we've done before. But yes, this one is a little different. I gotta admit that. In all my years, I gotta admit it.
Absolutely. So if you want more information, just give me a call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Connect with us, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And as always, we ask, set that first radio preset button to come back here and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Again, if you want to meet any of our guests, call me anytime, 800-306-1990. Big thanks to John and Sean who are engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions, call me anytime, 800-306-1990. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.